So after we did our big NFL offseason video last week, there was one headline that kind of slipped past us because I think it happened like a day after maybe we recorded that. And that is the Bears trading Justin Fields to the Steelers. And something we've been talking about a long time in terms of what the Bears are going to do at quarterback. Are they going to keep Justin Fields? Are they going to try to draft Caleb Williams and develop him from there? And it seems like that's the route they're taking. Um, the trade value for this is insanely low, I think, and I'll get into that more. It was only a conditional sixth round pick. The condition being that it'll turn into a fourth round selection if Fields plays in 51% of the Steelers snaps this season. So essentially, if Fields is the starter for the majority of the season, which again is not a guarantee because of the Russell Wilson signing we talked about last week. What do you think about this trade, Simon? Specifically, we'll start with for the Steelers.
Um, I know a lot of people. I've seen a lot of people diss this very, very quickly, just on the fact alone that there's a very good chance he doesn't start. Like you said, I could totally see a world where Russ holds on to that starting spot the entire season, and we're just gonna see a season basically wasted for Justin Fields. But honestly, I think it's a good opportunity for him. I don't know if he necessarily needs it. I still think that he's probably good enough to just slide right into that starter spot if Russ was not here. But that being said, I don't hate it. I do think it's kind of smart by Pittsburgh because you're kind of just doing the safest thing with a team that doesn't necessarily have to win this year as far as I'm concerned. I still think they'll be okay next year. So I could totally see a world where they run it with Russ this year, run it with Fields next year. And I think that would work out pretty well for them. I don't know. I don't really hate it.
Yeah, I really love it for the Steelers. I'll get into this more on the Bears side, I think, but I think that draft capital is insanely low for someone of Justin Fields' talent. I think that I don't know what happened with Justin Fields in terms of his perception, but he went from someone who I consider to be like a borderline top 15, top 10 quarterback. I know I'm higher on him than most people. He's up and down, yes. Like he's not going to be consistently great, but especially like at the end of the season, he was playing really well. Again, we brought up this example in previous podcasts. It's like the Sam Darnold trade. Sam Darnold, after completely flaming out in New York, literally doing nothing, he fetched a second round pick. And it's the same kind of thing where it's like it's a high draft pick prospect that you think you can rehabilitate. Well, Justin Fields has already shown promise. I just don't think he's gotten the right opportunity yet. And so to get him for a sixth round pick is absolutely insane. And I really love what the Steelers are doing in terms of like they're throwing darts and just seeing what'll hit. It was a point that was made on a podcast I listened to this week in terms of the Steelers are never going to be, as long as Mike Tomlin's there, they're never going to be a team that is able to draft a quarterback in the top like 5 of a draft. They're never going to get like that Caleb Williams, Drake May type prospect because Mike Tomlin has literally never had a losing season. So this is probably the best way you can go about fixing your quarterback problem because drafting a quarterback in the back end of the first has not worked. It rarely works. You look back to like Johnny Manziel, Paxton Lynch, and then obviously Kenny Pickett, the most recent example of that. There's obviously a few exceptions to that, Lamar Jackson, big one, but in general, most of the quarterback talent is kind of gone by then. So to be able to just kind of find guys that could potentially work out for you, get them on insane steals. Russell Wilson for $1 million, veteran minimum. Justin Fields for a sixth. And then if they don't work out, whatever. You didn't invest anything in them. And if they do, that's fantastic. Like you've set your franchise up for the next like however many years, especially in the case of Justin Fields.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. I don't know if it's a perception thing, more of like the whole league knew that the Bears would be desperate to get rid of him. Like nobody was going to give him a second, right? Like because why would you? Because if you know nobody in the league is going to give them a second, why wouldn't you wait for the price to get a little lower? And it does. I do see the perception thing. Just thinking about it off the top of my head, when you look at that Seahawks move as an example, right, where we saw the Seahawks pick up Sam Howell, which, looking at it now, the way you got to think that they absolutely could have gotten Fields for around the same price, which I don't know. I almost think I would have liked more. I would have liked that quite a bit more, I think, just based on a potential
absolutely
thing.
More.
Yeah, and that does make me think a little bit about just. You know what? Actually, I'm going to take that back. I actually could see it being a perception thing, but I do agree with you. I don't know if there's a lot of merit in it. I think that he still has a lot of potential. And like you point, I think that's also a good point on the late first round pick thing, because you're absolutely right. That has not worked out for many teams. It hasn't worked out for Pittsburgh, obviously, like with Pickett. I mean,
Pickett's gone now.
This is probably the best potential-wise quarterback they have had in their locker room since Roethlisberger. Holy crap! Like it's just been one of those things for the Steelers where they just haven't had a reason or a way really to bring in a quarterback who can be that with that kind of potential.
Yeah, and I mean, even like you say, since Big Ben, but it's since like 2016 Big Ben.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
For the last, maybe not 20. Probably was decent for a couple of years. I don't remember when exactly he fell off, but there were a few.
2016,
like 2 to 3 years. Yeah, that was the last year. He's like really good. But if I had to guess, but like. There was a long time there where they were just kind of like dragging Big Ben's corpse out there to play football for them, and like it didn't really work. Like you could tell like he was not physically where he needed to be. So they really haven't had a good quarterback in like 6, 7, 8 years, probably closer to that. That's I don't know. This is a great move for them, and again, I just love it because of how low risk it is in terms of like if this doesn't work out, then whatever. Like, you're still in so much of a better spot than you were last year. The one thing I will say that I think is interesting, and I think it'll be interesting to see how this dynamic plays out, that Justin Fields and Russell Wilson are kind of the same quarterback in terms of style. Like, in a lot of ways, Justin Fields is like a young Russell Wilson.
I was going to say.
In terms of how he plays the game.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Oh,
yeah.
God, no.
Yeah.
In terms of the way Russell Wilson would be playing in his prime, like that's kind of what Justin Fields emulates in terms of like relying on his legs, good on deep shots, and not very good at throwing over the middle and a little bit smaller. As a quarterback, that's Russell Wilson. I think he's not as small as Russell Wilson.
I was gonna say my ballpark would have been like 6'2", 6'3",
which for a quarterback is not.
It's not short. Like that's about average.
It's like 6'2" is the. Oh, he's 6'3". He's taller than I thought.
That's what I thought. Which I mean, honestly,
short thing.
I don't think there's as much merit behind the short quarterback sucking thing as. Like I don't know.
Bryce Young.
Okay, fair enough. But Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Like it's I guess it's not looking as pretty now that Russ isn't as performing quite as well as he was a couple of years back. But I mean,
I think there was an overcompensation.
A little bit.
Like nobody wanted a short quarterback, and then Russell Wilson was good, and then everybody
get that tiny guy who can run.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Kyler guy who runs like a toddler.
I think the Bears side is a lot more interesting because we're kind of seeing the locker room turn on the management a little bit now. We're seeing a lot of like quotes. I think it was Cole Kmet. I have no clue what show he was on. I don't remember off the top of my head. But I just remember seeing him go out and talk about the fact that he was very disappointed to see Fields gone. And then we saw, I can't remember his name, one of the Bears corners. Oh, Jalen Johnson. Johnson. It was Jalen Johnson.
I just pulled up the quote.
Okay, well, go right ahead.
He said, Jalen Johnson said, this is addressed to whoever the Bears pick with number 1. I don't know who are they going to pick.
I wonder.
He said, you can't bring that Hollywood stuff into the building, especially not with guys who have played this game at a high level for consecutive years in the league. We're gonna see through it what you did in college, the Hollywood. It's like, nah, you got to prove yourself. That stuff doesn't matter.
What are they referring to by the Hollywood? What is he not bringing? Because he's gonna bring the fame. Like what?
Yeah.
I mean,
in terms of like the selfisher and that, like, I don't know. I mean, I've never seen like Caleb Williams
okay.
as a very like high on his own supply kind of guy. I don't know if
I
there's
mean,
the
he hasn't
association with
shown
like him
he's a
being a
team
USC.
player. But I almost feel I never looked at it as him being selfish more than I just looked at it as him protecting his own stock,
No,
which is
no,
smart.
and I do.
Like when you're looking
I think a
at
lot of it is his
potential.
dad too.
Oh sure, oh sure. But like I don't know. I feel like if I'm Caleb Williams reading that quote, I'm just like, all right, sure. Like I don't know why anyone would
Yeah.
care. I mean. It's not like
Yeah.
he's going to be the biggest ego in that locker room, even if he is all Hollywood or whatever the hell that means. Like
No.
there's always going to be a bigger ego, and I don't think he's going to be the one with with the biggest
he
head.
doesn't seem like a big ego guy. He doesn't seem like
No,
a big ego guy. This is a completely different tangent, but the character assassination that people have been trying to do on Caleb Williams is insane to me. It's just so absurd. Oh my God, Caleb Williams paints his nails. Like, oh, he's gonna be a bust. Like, what an idiot guy. He paints his nails. He cried after he lost a game and was like hugging his mom. What a loser. Who is like? Why does this matter? Like, who cares that he paints his nails, and who cares that he like?
Oh my God,
showed
guys!
that he
I
cared
heard.
about winning the
I was
game?
gonna say, oh my God, guys! Caleb Williams puts pineapples on his pizza.
Wow.
Instant fifth round.
It's the same kind of like people assume, oh, like Caleb Williams is a diva. Like, oh my God, like, can you shut up? Like, would you rather have a guy who's like crying on the sidelines because he lost the game, or a guy who doesn't care and is like late to team meetings and shit? Like, I know which one I'd rather have.
Yeah.
It's just like, cut me a break with that stuff, frankly. Maybe I'm just on Twitter too much because I see that shit on Twitter all the time. It's like,
Yeah, it could be
Caleb Williams is a
that.
diva. I don't actually know about his character. Like, I see him painting his nails, and I'm just like, oh, I don't know if that's an NFL football player. Fuck off.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a weird thing to judge talent on, does the painted nails... You know what? It might affect the weighting of his hand. Maybe we do have to worry about this, Caleb. It could be over for him. Deep ball gone.
If Caleb Williams' painted nails are definitively the reason he falls out in the NFL, I will chop off one of my own fingers. I'll get an amputation. Like, how confident I am. Oh my God!
It's just becoming like weekly. What's this craziest thing that you're gonna say? You're eventually one of these days. It went from like it's becoming an addiction. Like you went from jumping in the ocean to jumping in the other ocean to jumping off your fingers. Like at what point does it like
going to Slovenia as well?
Oh, that one, right? Yeah. If it's eventually you're just gambling. Maybe it's not Otani who's the gambling addict. It's you.
If I ever go to a casino, it's not going to end well for me. It's a good thing. Trick plays popping off. We're gonna get the AdSense money coming in soon,
Christ.
right? Like,
oh well.
Support my gambling addiction.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting to see the character stuff because he just seems like the guy he seems fairly reserved in a lot of the stuff that I've seen of him. Where it feels like a lot of people are putting just narratives on him, which, to be fair, it should be expected. Because I think you kind of see that every single time. Every single time there's like a consensus number one type guy where there's always something, right? There's always something about them usually, and I don't know. Like here, I mean, Caleb, it doesn't have to be a character thing either. Because I mean, think about it. Wembanyama he was too skinny, and I was one of the people saying it. Like Connor Bedard, it was the fact he was too short to play center in the NHL. Like, there's always something. There's always a nitpick. And I think that the fact that it's character for Caleb Williams when there's not a lot there kind of just shows that he is absolutely well-rounded. He is on the field exactly what you think he is, which is perfect. Like, he is a number one type guy, so they're just like, we got to find a thing to try and hit him with. Yeah. Oh, he hugged his mom and paints his nails. And to
no,
be fair, I've also seen that in the UFC side of thing with Israel Adesanya, because he did the same shit and faced the same shit, where it was he painted his nails and like went on a bunch of shows with that type of stuff and got a crap ton of hate of it. That's just the world we live in, where people are going to judge for stuff like that. When I mean, you're
painted
Twitter
nails,
sucks.
Who gives a shit?
I don't. Yeah, I was gonna say live your life, do whatever you want. Like
Live your
it's
life, yeah.
like it's that's just Twitter for you. I don't know. The world we live in will never come around to a place where people will not judge for whatever the fuck. So
No,
I don't
that's
know.
true.
I don't care, honestly. I don't think
Yeah.
he does either. So I mean, it's one of those things where it's just like whatever.
Yeah, he's gonna be a good quarterback. All this other shit is just like, yeah, it pisses me off. But I should probably just be on Twitter less, because you're right. Twitter fucking sucks.
Yeah, I just take
not
everything
really.
I see on that app with a grain of salt usually.
Yeah, as you should.
Yeah.
If we want to like wrap up the Justin Fields stuff too, because for the Bears, they're gonna bring in Caleb Williams, and like we kind of just talked about, he's gonna be great. He's gonna be great. Like barring a collapse or some sort of bad coaching or something that we don't see right now, he's very likely going to be very good. So that's not necessarily the side of it that I'm mad about the Bears for. It's like, I don't know, man. A 6th round pick? That's such low compensation.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, we've been talking
know-
all offseason. It feels like over the last 2 months we've just watched that price tag drop. It almost
it
I
was
think
the
it got
first,
to the
and
point
then it
where
was the
they
second.
fire sold him. Like store
Yeah.
was closed and they just wanted to get him off the shelf. Like it's just, I mean, there was no way they were gonna get the price they wanted. I feel like I want to say that I'm surprised, but honestly, when I saw the price tag they got, I thought they'd get a bit more. In my head, I probably would have thought like 3rd or 4th, and 4th being assured, right? Like that's kind of what I was thinking in my head. Seeing that they got a 6th is depressing as hell. And even like
really
best case scenario for Fields and frankly the Steelers, honestly, if Fields ends up overtaking Russell Wilson in the first year that he's in Pittsburgh, and they do get that 4th round pick, I mean, is that really that much better? Like, sure, it's a bit, it's a consolation prize, I guess, but it's like it's only 2 rounds.
If Fields ends up playing that many snaps, he's probably already outplayed a 4th round pick's value, right?
Well, for that
It's
to have
literally
happened,
not-
for that to have happened, that would mean that he is outplaying Russell Wilson, which you can say whatever you want about how good Russ is. Like, barring injury, if he's outplaying Russ, then he's a franchise quarterback for the Steelers, like, for the next 10 years. You just gave this, and in return, you got a 4th round pick. Cool.
Yeah. Like,
Great job,
that's the
Bears.
thing. It's like if Caleb Williams does bust, which I think is not likely, and Fields plays well, like just think
This
about
is
how,
gonna look
how
bad.
badly that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I mean,
there's
bet on the sure thing as much as you want to. I remember when we first had this conversation on what to do about Caleb Williams, Justin Fields, what do you do in that situation? I remember being more on the fence than I am, especially now, because back then we were talking about a 2nd or a 1st. We were talking about them getting an actual legit return, and which made more sense to me, because I mean, why not gamble on a quarterback who might be generational? Even if you think that you have a guy who could be potentially Pro Bowl or even like whatever, he could be good enough. Why settle for good enough, right? Was my logic when I was looking at it originally. Now it's, in hindsight, it feels so weird to have made that argument seeing what they actually got. Because it almost feels like they had like talked themselves into a corner and didn't have a backup plan for if the rest of the league just said, whatever. We don't need him. And now he's playing, because they I honestly think they would have been better off keeping him as a backup. Like, I know the media would have gone haywire, but like at least that way I don't even know. Like, it's just, at least you could have done something.
At least you could have then, when the inevitable injury happens, flipped him for a considerably higher pick. Like, let's say, I'm not going to wish this on him necessarily, but let's say Aaron Rodgers goes down again.
Okay. Okay,
in
buddy.
like I said I'm not going to. But let's say like it could happen. It could happen to anybody, right? Like injuries happen. It's a part of the sport. It sucks. Especially last year, we saw that a bunch.
Yeah.
Let's say a team with playoff ambitions has someone go down. Like Justin Fields would be the first guy that I'd want if he's still on the Bears roster. And it's
Yeah.
like at that point, if you're the Bears, now you've got leverage, and now you can probably flip a second.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what I'd be looking at. So again, it probably wouldn't have been realistic because they probably would have destroyed the locker room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Considering like having those two quarterbacks and like
No,
some guys are loyal.
but
to Fields,
I
some guys are
do
loyal
I
to
do see
Williams.
what you mean though. Just in the fact that like if a star player goes down, like a star quarterback goes down, all of a sudden you have a guy who could absolutely fill in. Like for example, and just to be clear, I am not coming out and saying this. Let's say Connor McDavid goes down for the Oilers' career-ending injury. The first guy that I'd be going for is a guy like, with the skill of Justin Fields. Yeah. Not saying I want it to happen though.
Don't read into what I say. Don't read into what I say. The examples I bring up, they have no meaning in this.
Yeah, no, absolutely not at all. All right.
I am if you haven't watched this podcast before, I love Aaron Rodgers
with a fiery passion. Tunes into every Pat McAfee episode featuring
Oh
A-Rod.
my god. Oh my god. Fuck, the Aaron Rodgers has gotten the most mentions out of any athlete on this podcast just because I fucking rant about him on unrelated segments.
I don't know. Who have we talked about the most, do you think? That's a good question, actually. now I'm actually curious.
I think it's probably Rodgers just because he gets brought up in shit when we're not talking about him.
I could also see it being like Mahomes or something, though. Just being like, I think it probably would be a football player, but I don't know if it'd be Rodgers.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, who knows who it would be.
I mean,
You never know.
the fucking loves attention and he gets it, so good for him, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyways, good on the Steelers.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that is the takeaway.
Good move. I will be excited to see how it plays
You
out.
traded nothing for a potential quarterback who could be the guy for your
Could
team
still
for
be
the
a
next 10
franchise
years.
guy.
Yeah. Like, that's... I mean, even if he doesn't work out, what did you really lose, assuming the Bears don't draft
Literally
a Hall of
nothing.
Famer with that 4th-round pick, which, I mean...
They're not going to.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to happen.
Unless, like, bearing insane circumstances. I mean, the Steelers already won this one, so... Yep.
Yeah.